Hey, what's up, guys? It is Dan from FightWave, and today I'm joined by somebody who I'm very excited to speak with. If you know anything about me, you know I'm a sucker for the lightweight division, and more importantly, today's guest is somebody who is a fan-favorite fighter, somebody who every time he steps in the octagon, the fans love him, and especially after his last fight, it's hard not to be a fan of this man. He goes in there, it's kill or be killed every single time he steps in there, coming off a phenomenal fight of the year, in my opinion, with Chepe Mariscal, facing Mohammad Yahya at UFC 294. I'm joined by everyone's favorite, Trevor Peak. How are we doing today, Trevor?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I haven't been up too long. It's the time's a lot different here than it is back home, but I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Absolutely. I'm doing great, Trevor. Thank you so much. I know, and we were talking off air about it a little. Obviously, a whole different ball game in the UAE compared to the South in Tennessee or Alabama. Talk to me about how everything's been in terms of just getting to UAE. Obviously, a phenomenal matchup ahead of you. How has everything been in terms of adjusting?
It honestly hasn't been too bad on me. When my testosterone levels shoot up, skyrocket there at the end of my camps, my sleep gets a little white. It gets a little crazy anyways. So really adjusting hadn't been too bad on me. As far as the culture goes and everything, it's a lot different here than it is back home. But I mean, it's fine. We're enjoying ourselves, and some of my coaches got in last night, and the rest will be in tomorrow. So we're all getting here and getting settled in, and trying to enjoy everything.
Absolutely. And obviously, right now, it goes without saying, your fight is probably one of the biggest fights of the card for the reason that you are facing one of the first Emirati fighters in the UFC ever in the form of Mohammad Yahya. It's a fight that promises to deliver. You're on his home soil. You flew over, you said, not a problem to me, on his home soil, representing the States. Talk to me about the matchup a little bit and just that idea of fighting on your opponent's territory and turf and how you feel it will play a factor in the fight.
Oh, it fires me up, man. I'm here for it. I love the hostile environments. This will be the first time in a while that I haven't had a crowd with me other than the fighting at the Apex. So, I think fighting at the Apex will actually probably play into the experience a little bit as far as not having my crowd with me. But I've faced adversity as far as like dealing with hostile environments. Even my pro debut, I fought one of the most well-known fighters in the whole state of Alabama. He had probably the biggest following in Alabama, and I come out in that crowd and just all I could hear was boos, man. So, I got in there and ended up getting a no contest on that one. But I mean, I started whooping that old boy. I think he just found a way to get out of the fight and took it, but. I'm here for it, man. I'm excited. Yeah, it's a big deal. I reckon he's the very first person to ever fight from UAE in the UFC. So he ought to have a lot of support there, man. And they actually got us right before the feature fight on the prelims. So I mean, I'm expecting that arena to be at full capacity or dang near close to it. So it's gonna be wild, man. But like I said, I'm so here for it, and I'm prepared, and like I said, I'm ready.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, obviously, not a stranger to fighting in hostile territories. You are fighting on one of the most decorated cards of the year, and I think it really speaks to how much the UFC sees you as a premier talent in the organization. With you fighting Muhammad Yahya in there at UFC 294, I should add, on one of the biggest pay-per-views. Talk to me about that excitement. Obviously last time out you were fighting on a fight night, now you're fighting on a pay-per-view. Is there any excitement or anticipation that comes from that part of you that feels comfortable with the UFC seeing, the potential in you? Is there anything that excites you about fighting on such a decorated card?
Oh yeah, man. I felt honored whenever they offered me the opportunity. I mean, it's just it was the biggest card of the year, and that I don't know that ain't got even bigger with the fights that's dropped off. I'm actually more excited about the matchups now than I was about the previous matchup. So yeah, I mean, whenever they offered it to me, I was a little nervous about going that far away from home and everything. I kind of wanted to be getting, renegotiating, be getting paid a little bit better before I traveled across the big pond, and because these trips can get pretty costly and everything. But man, it was such a good opportunity, and like me coming off of a loss, it was too good. It was too good to turn down, really. And I want to show that I'm here, and I want to be a company man. I mean, I want to be smart about, my career, but I also want to show, these guys that I'm here to play. And then this next fight, I want to show everybody that I am a real contender.
Absolutely. You mentioned coming off a loss, but it hardly felt like a loss because it felt like your stock went up so high with the last fight at UFC Jacksonville. It was just a phenomenal performance on both ends, a showing of resilience, which has been a theme throughout your career. I feel like it won't even take a boulder or a meteor to take out Trevor Peek, because every time you step in that octagon, you showcase a level of grit and a level of heart that is truly out of this world. I don't think I've seen any other fighter in my years of covering the sport thus far that has been able to showcase the level of grit and heart that you showcase every time you step in that octagon. You look at the fight you had with Chepe Mariscal, that was arguably a fight of the year contender and one of the best fights I've seen live. I would say that whether or not you're here, I just think it's one of the best fights, and it goes without saying that I earned you a lot of fans. So talk to me about just the reception after that fight, seeing the outpour of support, and just seeing how many fans you gained overnight with such a valiant display of, skill and of just the heart that you showed that night in Jacksonville.
Oh yeah, man, it was incredible. Even losing, I mean, I had an abundance of support, man. I mean, I can't tell you how many messages I had. I mean, I gained, shoot, I don't even know, probably at least 5,000 followers from that fight, maybe more. I think I gained quite a bit more than that, honestly. But it was, yeah, everybody just poured out their love to me. And, that's one thing that, me and a lot of my coaches talked about was, my toughness and heart would, ultimately won the crowd over, even though I didn't get the win. But it was a different experience, man. At Chepe, I knew when the fight changed, man. I knew I was getting in there with somebody that was going to be tough to deal with, man. And boy was he. But I learned a whole lot in that fight, man. And I'll prove it come Saturday that I have learned a lot, and that I've put in a lot of extra work this camp and tried fixing what holes I got, and I'm still working on them, man. I don't think you can ever be perfect at this thing. You can learn something new every day and perfect something new every day. But I got to see how effective his small shots were. I got to see just a lot of things, man. I don't need to wind up so much, I don't need to get overextended. I need to be more composed and calm. And honestly, man, I was going for the kill so much in that fight that I got caught up holding my breath a good bit, and it helped gas me out. And really, I was, as far as feeling good, man, I didn't feel worth the crap that day. I don't know how many people's ever woke up and fought at 11 o'clock in the morning, but that's for the birds, brother. I'm used to fighting at more around 10 or 11 p.m. at night. On my regional scene career, I've been main event about every time, man. So I'm always sitting in the back and having that extra time to get rehydrated. I started my weight cut heavier than I've started since I've started cutting 155. But when I got in the cage, I was actually 5 pounds lighter than I've been all the other times. So we've got we've got everything dialed in. I feel like now, though, for the first time in my career, I'm actually working with a dietitian, Mr. Mark Hernandez, and so far, man, I've had better energy this camp. I feel more sustainable, more durable, and just all around just feel a lot better. And my weight's actually better right at this moment than it's been in the past. So I'm pretty confident that, and especially with the extra time, I mean, I'm going to be fighting probably close to 9 p.m. out here. So I'm going to have, an extra 9 to 12 hours of rehydration time. So really stoked about that. This whole thing's going to feel a lot more like what I'm used to. So I'm super blessed and thankful for that.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned, obviously, looking at the fight, and while you took in, obviously, all the outpour of support, you looked at what you needed to improve on. And really, we see that with you going out to Vegas, getting in work there, going to the PI, getting in all of the valuables that come with being signed to the UFC. But it's crazy you mentioned, obviously, the improvements that you feel like you need to make. Coming off such a strong showing in your debut, it feels like your debut performance was something that was just truly out of this world, because it showed how different your skill set was, and how much more different you fight from a lot of other fighters, throwing in unique strikes. I don't think I've ever seen a fighter lead with the hammer fist as a form of in the form of striking, and it comes to show how dynamic your striking is, because we saw that in the Chepe fight. We saw you showing a lot of different looks, and the fact that you feel like you need to improve, it speaks to your character, and speaks to how highly you think of just needing to improve in this sport to get to that next level. I wanted to ask you, just in terms of, going to Vegas and getting all of the amenities that come with being signed to the UFC, how was that experience like, being able to train there and obviously going to gyms like Extreme Couture and whatnot?
Oh man, there's some killers in Las Vegas. You better be on your P's and Q's whenever you go to that place and get some rounds, man. You don't want to go in that gym being out of shape for sure. I mean, we went and shot Torres's promo video, and I got some rounds with Marvin Vittori, and I've just so many Marab, Dwashwili. I mean, I've got so many good rounds and good looks, and really good tips from the fighters, and the knowledge in Las Vegas as far as fighting goes is just unbelievable, man. And the Performance Institution is just a state of the art facility. I mean, it's incredible, and I love the staff there, man. The staff is just some of my favorite people I've ever messed with. I mean, they're just so welcoming, and they just treat me like I've known them my entire life, and it just makes everything a breeze whenever I'm there.
Absolutely. And for me, what really stands out about you, Trevor, is just the way you made it to the UFC. It really strikes a personal chord with me in terms of just how inspirational it was and how, you see the improvements that you made. You see your story. It's hard not to get choked up listening to it and seeing how a lot of some people are in a similar situation and how you've turned your life around for the better, and you've really shown to be a level above the average mixed martial artist, in my opinion. You're looking at your story and the way you changed your life for the better, looking at you now, the level of professionalism that you echoed throughout your career with your faith, with everything about you. It's hard not to be a fan of you and the way you go about it. I wanted to ask you, just in terms of this newfound perspective, with everything that's happened, with the outpour of support, with everything that's culminated leading up to this fight in Abu Dhabi, what's something that for you is you relish about the journey a lot? What's something that you love about this journey more than anything else, that you feel like if anybody was out there right now looking in, you would want to say, like, this is the number one thing that I feel like has been the most fulfilling in this journey thus far?
The fans in general, man. I mean, just the outpour of support, and just I even posted a video yesterday, kind of sharing a brief testimony of a coffee cup that I had in Jackson County Jail, and then I was enjoying a cup, or I was enjoying a cup with out here in Abu Dhabi yesterday morning. I shared a small piece of my testimony out there, and man, it's really humbling, and it's I'm getting emotional thinking about now. I had so many people messaging me, talking about how my stories changed their life and everything, and I know that ain't me. That's God working, dealing with people's hearts. You can't take credit for anything like that, but I definitely tried my best to help plant seeds and just let God water it. But and the kids, man, the kids have got my heart watching, seeing all these little ones. And I'll go to a football game or something back home, man, and I'm having a hard time not getting choked up right now, honestly. All them little kids, Trevor Pete, that's Trevor Pete, running up, wanting to get a picture with me. And, honestly, man, I never thought I'd be anything in this life, and anything I am, I owe it to the good Lord. But all these kids that believe in me, and all my family and friends, and just wonderful people that I've met along this journey, it's 100% the relationships, man. It ain't nothing about the glory or the glamour or the lifestyle or anything like that, man. Don't get me wrong. It's neat and cool and stuff like that, man. But that stuff fades away. But it's all these people that love me and support me, man. That's what's been so cool, man. Is all the relationships I had before all this fighting stuff. A lot of them was really toxic and destructive and real wild and selfishness, really. And ever since I started this journey, God has, man, He's put so many wonderful, wonderful people in my life, and I can't thank Him enough for the love and support that He's blessed me with. And just it's really humbling, man.
Absolutely. And I love that answer just for so many reasons, because you look at there's a saying, the people you surround yourself with make up who you are as a person. And I feel like every single one of us is just one person away from really changing our life for the better. You mentioned the people that you've met along this journey, but I always like to, to see the people that kickstart the journeys of the fighters, the people that see something in the fighters, not just the fighters, but the human beings behind the fighters. They see the potential. And somebody that I feel like for you really stood out to me was that relationship that you had with your grandfather. Somebody who I feel like put you on that path towards getting to this unreal journey. Because without him, we don't ever see Trevor Peek in the octagon. I feel like we won't ever see Trevor Peek putting on amazing performances. And it's that testament and that saying that we're just one good person away from making a difference in this world. I wanted to ask you, just looking back on that journey, what he saw in you to now where you're on the big shows. How have the conversations been with him, and what's it been like to make him proud and everyone in your family proud with just the amazing stuff that you've done as a person and as a fighter?
Yeah, that's my dude, man. I've been hard on him, man. I've probably knocked a few years off his life with him stressing out. God, I had so many of my family members, telling him to, when I was back in my wilder days, rambling, running around, getting arrested, drinking, driving, all them bunch of stupid stuff. So many people was telling him, just don't, turn his back on me, man. Let me kind of do my thing. But he loved me too much, man. He bonded me out of jail every time. He honestly probably enabled me a little bit, but his love for me was too strong. And when we started doing all this fighting stuff, it would be just him and I, kind of making the drive, and me being ill at him while I was cutting weight, butting heads a little bit. But man, just having him in my corner has been wonderful, and I hope and pray he never misses one of my fights. They actually got in this morning and made me feel a little bit better, man. So he's my rock, man. That's my dude for sure. That's my dude.
That's amazing. And you mentioned just the people coming up to you, whether it's the baseball games, whether it's the games in general, saying, "Oh my God, that's Trevor Peak." Peak Nation, I feel like has never been better. It's only continuing to grow, and you've become such a great ambassador for the sport. I feel like, especially in those southern states. You look at Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee. Just the southern mixed martial arts scene is booming. It's growing. It's flourishing. I think like never before. It comes down to guys like you, Bryce Mitchell, TJ Brown, so many other great fighters that come from those states that really lead by example with strong values and just, lead by example in the octagon. They're great mixed martial artists. I wanted to ask you just in terms of connecting with them, because I know you were with Bryce just a couple weeks back or maybe a month or so back. What was that experience like, just being able to talk with him and just get to pick his brain on some topics with both of you? Obviously, not only strong in your faith, but also great fighters in the process.
Oh yeah, man. I felt like I mean, the way Bryce was, we're so much alike, and I honestly felt like I'd known him for a good long while. I didn't really get any training with him yet, but we're making plans hopefully after this fight, and if he ain't got anything too close, we're going. He invited me out to his place in Arkansas. We exchanged phone numbers and stuff, and he actually has a friend in Chattanooga, Tennessee, that he said he comes and visits quite often. So I feel like that's going to be a relationship that's, going to be beneficial on both ends. And, hopefully we can get together and, learn some things from each other and just have a good time, man. He does a lot of things that I like to do. And, I'm sure I do a lot of things that he likes to do. We're pretty similar, man. So, and I've just really, it's every time I go out to Vegas, man, I build a pretty cool relationship. I mean, I've Billy Q, Matt Frivola. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Ricky Tercios. I mean, I've met so many wonderful people, man. And I actually went and spent a little time out and at a syndicate this past time, and I really like that place too, man. I respected their coaches a whole lot for they would come over, and heck, I'd be in there sparring their guys, and they would come over and critique me and help me out and just, spend a little extra time with me and stuff like that. So I was super grateful for that, man. But yeah, these going out to Vegas it's really neat, man, because like I said, every time I go out there, I feel like a relationship with, at least one, but most of the time multiple individuals.
Absolutely, and it goes without saying that the respect that you've garnered from the MMA community, I think every fighter, almost every fighter, if you mention Trevor Peak's name to them, they're all ecstatic and elated when they hear your name because of the reputation that you've built for yourself in this sport, being a great ambassador for the sport, being somebody who came into this sport looking for a way to further their purpose in this life and to grow as a human being. And I wanted to say, from me personally, just a thank you to you for continuing to do what you do as a fighter, continuing to do what you do as a person. And I wanted to ask you just on a final note, Trevor, because, thank you so much for your time. I feel like I've taken a lot of your time. I know your coaches are probably sleeping in the next room over, and then we're over here doing the interview, and you're getting adjusted to Abu Dhabi time. But I wanted to ask you, because this fight, it's a massive fight. It's one of those fights that, to the real fans, we know what's going on here. It's going to be either an all-out war or it's literally, one person is either going to sleep or it's going to be a war like the Mariscal fight. Looking at that fight and looking at a win here, that puts you in a phenomenal position, I think, in the division to really push for a top 15 opponent. Talk to me about, obviously, the goals, for this fight, not looking past Muhammad as well, but just goals on a personal level to close out the year strong. Really just some goals, whether it's personal, like, faith-driven or anything of the sort, to maybe just finish out 2023 with a bang.
Yeah, man, I'd say probably my top goal right now is I want to just show the world that my coaches know what they're talking about. Really, and moving forward as far as fighting goes, man. I want to show everybody that I'm a contender, man. That I can fight with these folks. That I am scared. I am very skilled. That there's more than just a wild maniac, chaotic individual inside me. That I can be calm. I can be patient. I can be technical, but really, just like I said, I want to show the world that I do have a good team behind me, that I am at the right place with the Gogi and, working with my longtime striking coach, Jeff Powell. I mean, I can deal with people talking negatively about me, man. I mean, I've been a bad headline, most of my life, but, it just really hurts. It really hurt me this last fight that, I kind of go out there and the negative comments about my team, that I needed to move teams and all this stuff. But man, I feel like I'm where I belong, and obviously I'm gonna be going out to Vegas and stuff like that, because just there is so much knowledge and building relationships out there and stuff like that, and access to the PI. But ultimately, man, I want everybody to know that I'm where I belong and that I can become a champion with a Gogi.
Absolutely, and for me, I think it's without a shadow of my doubt, that you guys are building something special at Agogi, and it goes without saying that this fight, I think we're gonna see the best version of Trevor Peek yet. It goes without saying, like you mentioned, you're gonna address some stuff that you feel like maybe you could have improved on in the Mariscal fight, but more importantly, we're gonna be seeing a great mixed martial artist in front of us. Trevor, thank you so much for your time. It's been an honor and privilege to speak with you. I look forward to watching you fight on the prelims at UFC 294. I know it's a fight that fans will be tuning in for, in enemy territory, where he's at best, with backed up against the wall. That's when we see the best Trevor Peek. Thank you so much for your time. To the fans at home watching, check out Trevor Peek fighting Mohammad Yahya at UFC 294. I'll be linking his socials in the description down below. It's been me, Dan, from FightWave, guys. Have a great day.